Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Gwen Robinson, past president of the Foreign Correspondents Club of Thailand and editor-at-large of Nikkei Asia. And thank you all for coming today. This is a little later than our usual lunch talk, so I hope no one thought it was our usual time of 12 o'clock. It was 1 o'clock. And before I turn to our esteemed guest here today, I just wanted to run through just a few little things. We usually announce things coming up. I'll keep it very short. In fact, just a couple of things. One is on Friday the 13th this week, the Foreign Correspondents Club has its annual Christmas dinner, which is fantastic value and a very hearty meal and an evening of fun. Just 1,500 baht a head for a very big meal and turkey and everything. All are welcome, so sign up if you would like, if you're at a loose end on Black Friday the 13th. No intent with the choice of that date. And then on December 18 we'll mark International Migrants Day with a very interesting panel to talk about the growing dynamic in Thailand we're seeing of issues concerning the huge influx of migrants, particularly across the border from Myanmar. So that will be an interesting one. We've got a lot of other interesting talks and things coming up, so please keep an eye on our website and Facebook page. So now turning to our guest of the day, Kun Sirin Phathanothai, who I think you obviously read about her, which is why you're here today. So I don't need to fill in a whole lot, except this is truly a remarkable story from a very remarkable woman who I met when I arrived quite a few years ago in Thailand. Sirin, I think, was one of the first truly interesting people I met when I came here, and she really embodies a lot of things, as you've read, you know, the stretching back to Mao Zedong's days and the Cultural Revolution, but also, more importantly, having gone through what must have been quite a traumatic and fascinating 13 years in communist China. She has now really established herself as a real personality and I think some sort of quiet influence in China-Sino-Thai relations, and with very good linkages and a lot of travel to and forth Beijing and Thailand. So I don't think I really need to say any more. I want to hand over to you, let you tell your story. She's got a lot of very rare and interesting photographs, and last time I saw some of these was at her family museum, which has been set up in her house with a truly fascinating collection of archival material, documents, photographs, and I think she's chosen some of the best to show today. And after that we'll have a bit of question and answer. So over to you. One thing I should say, there is going to be a fire drill later today in this building. Hopefully we have stalled that off till after the talk, but if you hear a loud bell, do not panic. It's not a fire, it's just a drill, but hopefully it'll be after the talk. All right, so Kun Sirin, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the friends and journalists and everybody here. Warmly welcome. Okay. In a sense, I feel as a member of your family, because my father always fancied himself as a journalist. Of all the things the occupations that he did, but journalism was in his heart, and he was very much respected by journalists of his era, called him a guru. So anyway, I feel at home here among you, and thank you very much for coming. Well, I think we will start. This is my home in Beijing. In springtime, we often have tulips, and it's a old courtyard of 300 years old. Okay, And people often ask with amazement, why was I sent to China? I think I would give you a few of the photos and a few of the television series made by the Chinese themselves on the life and works of Premier Zhou Enlai, which it was the series of 40-something episodes, among which I think one third was about us. So in there, it might give you some revelation of what was going on in a kind of a more visual effect. So I think this was my brother. My brother Wanwai, whose name was given by Prince Wanwai, who was our prime minister, foreign minister in the time of the Phibu government, one of the very remarkable Thai diplomats of our time. And he was Wanwai, he was 12 years old, and he was designated by Prime Minister Phibu to be his own personal representative. So the whole story started. I wanted to tell you the geopolitical situation of the time, why I was sent to China, or why my brother was to be sent to China. That was after the war in 1949, and People's Republic of China had been just established not far from our country in the region. And therefore, from Thailand, we had two choices. My father at the time was the chief advisor of foreign policy to Phibunsongkhram, in personal relationship and in the state function. He was the only one who was the decision maker of Thai policy during that after-war, post-war period. So in the 1950s, early 50s, Thailand decided the world was divided into two camps. One is the socialist camp led by the Soviet Union, and the other one is the Western camp led by the American. And Thailand joined the Western camp and was a close alliance with the US. And this is what you could see, that we sent our troops. That was the ship that we sent to join in the Korean War. And we had people sent all the troops himself at the Air Force. So we had also the Seattle Center, which is the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization. We call it Seattle. In Thailand, as we were the second headquarters after Pakistan. And there was a big celebration when the treaty we signed with Seattle at the time. That was Phibu, the prime minister. And so that was Thai's situation, because the reason being my father was very, very worried about the establishment of the People's Republic of China, because they were communists and they were in our region, very close by. And he was very worried that there are also large majority of, there are many, Chinese, overseas Chinese in Thailand. So this kind of worries increased with the existence of People's Republic of China. So what he did first was to do a lot of propaganda. I still remember in our home, we had a huge government house. In Klong Toei now it's become, I don't know what it is. So we, upstairs in the library, huge, bigger hall than this, people were there all the time to do the pamphlets with the communists, with the teeth and house burning, and the children got hooked up somewhere. So those were the pictures I still remember. That was done by my father, because he was very afraid and worried about the security of Thailand. But then he also had a very close relationship with Prime Minister UNU of Burma. And so we often, at our home, we had Prime Minister UNU. And then one day he came to him and he said, well, they were going to have a non-alliance conference in Bandung. And 29 non-alliance countries, like African countries and Asian, Indian was one of the head, so over there. And what he told him was that Premier Zhou Enlai was going to come to this meeting. And that was the very important piece of news my father got. So he discussed with because he always, although he was scared of China, but as an intellectual, he wanted to know this country, what it is actually. So he persuaded our Prime Minister, Phibu, to send Prince One, our Foreign Minister, to attend this meeting. But a little bit of a snag over there was we were not we are the alliance, not non-alliance countries. So in the end, we found a way out by attending the meeting by our foreign minister, very prestigious foreign minister, as observer to that meeting, which everybody welcomed. So the mission of Prince One was to try to contact Zhou Enlai in person, and just sound him out how he was, how he was like. So, and also all this had to be in a secret way, so that the Americans were not going to have a suspicion over us. And so that was how it was arranged. So they arrived, and that you could see that the Bandung conference. And on there, I suppose, Zhou Enlai shown his brilliance, his charm, his charisma, and so on. And somehow, between two of them, both had probably, as diplomats, they knew what both wanted. So they finally found a way to meet secretly in the residence of Zhou Enlai that they rented for the meeting, for the conference. And on that meeting, it was the Prince One was, I remember he came back home to father and he said, "Son, you know, Zhou Enlai, he was a Mandarin lord. He wasn't a monster that you were painting every day." I still remember that. And because we were scared of those monsters. Every day it had different heads and different eyes and so on. So what happened was, during that meeting, they had discussed 3 points. Number one was, we were not part of the non-alliance countries, but we would like the engagement of China as a memorandum of understanding that China would not invade us, and China would have a peaceful relationship between people to people of Thailand, people of China, and would like some kind of a high-level signature. So Prince One said, from Thai side, Prime Minister Phibu could designate Sirin Phathanothai, which is my father, to be the signature for the Thai people side, and he would like from China that Chairman Mao would designate someone to sign with him. And that's number one. Number two was that Prince One said, "Please understand our situation that we could not have a open relationship with China. So therefore, all the relationship had to be kept discreetly as possible." So that was agreed. And then Prime Minister Phibu would designate my father, Sirin Phathanothai, as the only person to contact Zhou Enlai. That was agreed. And then number three was that since we could not show any kind of friendship to China, and in fact we would show a lot of hostility against you, and please understand us, we're a small country, etc. Prince One was the very able diplomat of Thailand. Somehow, Zhou Enlai said, therefore he said, but we wanted to show our sincerity to China that we wanted to be friends, but we had difficulties. In this sense, they would, Thailand, Prime Minister of Thailand, and my father would like to send his own son, who bear the same name as Prince One, to be under the care of the Chinese government. So Zhou Enlai said, well, I will go and discuss with Mao Zedong, and if possible, I would like to be the guardian. That was the three things they had discussed secretly. When he came back, they were very, very happy because the connection was on. The connection was established in the beginning. Now, I would say this is more or less how I would go to China, and it was reflected in one of those Zhou Enlai's series of his life and work.
刚刚接到姚宗明送来的探访消息，桑帕坦努泰为了表示对我们的友好，要将一对儿女秘密送往中国，一个10岁的男孩和一个8岁的女孩。
哎呀，这怎么可以呢？2个泰国孩子来了，谁来负责看护他们？那么小，几天就闹着要回家了，这样不好。
But this is the file, as the Chinese communist people here would know. This sort of leadership lead.
我们不需要任何国家这么
would
做。
only come out through all the ministries, foreign ministries, propaganda ministries, file they have.
这样恐怕不行。听姚宗明汇报说，这是桑与皮文总理决定的。如果我们拒绝了他们，不但伤害了皮文总理，更挫伤了桑对中国的这份真诚与信任。他们不是送孩子来当人质，他们是希望孩子来学习中国的文化，将来可以成为中泰交流的纽带和桥梁。
你认为我们应该回封信接受？
立即邀请孩子来中国。听说桑和2个孩子已经做好了出发的准备，正在等待着我们的回复。
好，回复吧，我们欢迎。不过这2个小外宾，我们可要安排好，不要让他们的父亲失望啊。
Yeah. So this was actually the background and the final decision that my father would send children to China, because Zhou Enlai and Mao Zedong themselves would be our guardians. But actually, as for me, I was not in the picture. It was for my brother, who would be the representative of our Prime Minister. But when I heard in the car that my brother was going abroad and he was flying the plane, I was really yelling, nagging my parents and said, I want to go. You know why? Because in our school at the time, you think in 1955, 56, no children would be so easy, not many children would go on the plane. So I wanted to be on the plane and come back and show off to my classmate. That was the only reason I wanted to go. And I was so determined. And in the end, I think my parents thought, well, perhaps 2 would be better than 1. So he added me on with my strong request. I never been on, so the first time I went on the aeroplane, that was that time. But you know, before that, I saw my father going all over the world, to America, to somewhere, going Pan Am, and we used to go to under the plane and wave goodbye. I was so really longing to get onto that plane. But actually, the plane that I took was a 4-propeller plane from Bangkok to Rangoon, because they have found many ways how to get us there safely. So through Hong Kong, no, too many spies there, through this and that. In the end, Burma was their closest comrade of China. So from Bangkok to Burma is the best. So we went on a 4-propeller plane. I was sick from the minute I got on the plane, and I really hated all that, you know. So anyway, we got to, together with 4 bodyguards with us. I didn't know they were bodyguards. I knew they were our uncle, brothers, whatever, P-Ni or P-Nu, something. So the 4 of them came with us. And so we got to Rangoon, and we got to see the ambassador there. And so anyway, before that, the ambassador had signed, the ambassador representing Chairman Mao has signed a memorandum of understanding with my father, and that was the reason that my father sent us to China with a kind of a gift for trust and all the goodwill. And then I got to open mine, okay. And so we got through all that, and then I think so we got to China, and there was a lot of secret. We were put in a very big courtyard house. I think just now you were asking me where we were living. We didn't live in the palace of Zhongnanhai. We lived in our own old mansion, Qing Mansion courtyard. 5 courtyard house, and that was very huge, and it was brand newly prepared for us, because that would become a reception, like a reception house for the Thai, governments and important people who secretly would come to China and secretly would come back to Thailand. So there was, everybody, there were MPs, many member of parliaments. We had the deputy commander-in-chief of the Navy, Admiral Chuan, Admiral Luong Chien, all came with the Thai Navy delegations, and all these, and many journalists, and all the people that came, including a Minister of Commerce, who was at the time have a great difficulties. Bangkok Bank was going bankrupt because we had no business. So Thailand was negotiating to get the Thai rice to China. These are all done through my father and through the letters coming and going. Can we show the letter? Of Zhou Enlai. At our home, we still had the original letter of Zhou Enlai to father, many of them. And so all these were the secret coming and going between Thailand and China for about 1.5 years. And we were thinking that at the time, from the top political, in the parliament, through to the army, through to the journalists, many had been. But then when American got wind, there's something wrong, something going on in Thailand, so we had to pretend it. We had to pretend that everybody that came back from China got arrested at Don Mueang, put in jail somewhere, and then they opened the back door and they went back home. That's how Thailand played our politics at the time. So it could go on for about, half a year or something. And then came the 1958. I got to China in 1956. 1958, there was a coup d'etat of Marshal Sirin, overtoppled the Phibunsongkhram government. Phibunsongkhram himself ran away to Cambodia and later to Japan. My father, he had many followers, from intellectuals, member of parliament, the people who had trusted him in the last 2 years. He had that secret relationship with China and believed in what he was doing to improve the relationship with China for our national security. So in the new government of Marshal Sirin, what was the most killing part was the Article number 17, which lasted over 20 years after. That was against communism. That was the execution. Anybody who was who had a communist tendency, who had a communist activities, could be sentenced without judge, execution. So this one that stopped everybody, stopped all the relationship with China. And so my father was arrested together with 2,000 people, all the top intellectuals, member of parliament, journalists, many famous ones. And I think this dramatic change in my life was reflected in this film again of Zhou Enlai in one of the episodes. He actually came to our house and broke the news to us.
对不起，孩子们，周伯伯让你们失望了。我没有见到你们的父亲。
My brother.
周伯伯不是不想去看望你们的父亲，是泰国的政治局势发生了变化，发生了军事政变。你们的批文爷爷被沙利政权推下了台。
แล้วคุณพ่อล่ะครับ
已经被他们关进了牢房。
ผมจะกลับไป ผมจะไปช่วยคุณพ่อ
常怀，你一定要冷静。你是哥哥，妹妹，她需要你的力量。
So that's how he broke the news to us. And my brother wanted to come home, and he thought his mission to China had ended. That was when Zhou Enlai said to him, "No, your mission is just beginning. You still have a long road ahead of you to accomplish the wish of Premier Phibunsongkhram and your father." This one was the notebook that my brother had written in his diary. So Zhou Enlai promised us that he would look after us as his own children. So he didn't allow us to come home because that would add a lot more trouble for my father and his case. So so that was you can see that they all went to jail, 2,000 of them. They had no jail to put them. So they built a new jail, Lad Yao. Here, the Lad Yao jail was, the first residents were they, these famous people. Kun Isra Ahmad Kun, and the famous Thong Bai Thong Pao of the lawyer, and Kun Karuna Kusala Sai, the famous academist, all these. So it was one of the biggest and most valuable university of Thailand at the time, because you have the top intellectuals of Thailand in that prison, and all together. And they were there for 8 years. My father had written 4 books, big books about history of China, etc. Because we have all the top, brilliant academists there, and they could translate Chinese, Indian, Hindi, or whatever. So it was quite fun. Actually, my sister Tukta, she also spent part of her time in that jail. Not bad. It was clean and nice, new one. Yeah. So I think because of all the relationship, all the secret between China and Thailand stopped with this coup d'etat. And therefore, in a sense, somehow, China had promulgated and developed the relationship with the Thai Communist Party. This is when Salit came, and then with this kind of a severe decree, in the end, we had our Communist Party, Communist Army, trained by the Chinese in China. They walked over to Yunnan, be trained, and these were the pamphlets, communist pamphlets at the time. This was the Thailand you never knew at the time. That was in Nakhon Nayok and Phupan, all these famous holiday places of Thailand today. Then was the revolutionary base they were doing just like China, as Mao said, the countryside surrounding the cities. So we had terror, and for Thai government, they have special force against communism, and the fighting was on every day. Kun Sarayut, General Sarayut, was one of those brigades fighting against the communists. These were all the real, the real thing. This is because there was no way of contact. If you would think the two kids that Mao had said, these little kids, when they came, they might cry to go home. It is true. But on the other hand, when we couldn't go home, we were there, in a sense, as a kind of, for China, a kind of a link to get many people over, and there was some kind of a contact, a communication between us, between China and Thailand. But after this, there was nobody come. So, our function of having somebody there and to keep China away from instigated our Communist Party and army and so on, that we had played that function. But after the coup d'etat, we couldn't play that function anymore. But anyway, China rewarded us by keeping us there and raised us in China. So this was our life in a sense that ever since I was about 10 or 11 years old when my father was in jail, and we were adopted, luckily, by Zhou Enlai from Thailand side. From my family side, we had a tragedy, but to my own self, maybe it was a fortune, and it was a great fortune to be able to be adopted by a man like Zhou Enlai and be so close, in a very close proximity of Mao Zedong, all the marshals, you name it. Marshal He Long, Marshal Zhu De, all these, they became my uncles and so on. This is the house of Zhou Enlai, that's my mother and my sister, and that was in front of his house, and his wife is there. And so we became part of the Zhou Enlai's circle, not family, because his family, he had no family. He had his nieces over there, but nieces were living in a really end part of and not mixing with other parts of the Zhongnanhai. So I had the life of, I didn't know that it was such a beautiful life, but now thinking about it, every Saturday I would go to dancing as a kid, and with Mao, seeing Mao, dancing with young girls. Those were beautiful army girls, they came, all live music, and they loved rumba and tango and so on. Because Mao's wife was she was quite a star. So she taught Mao how to dance and so on. So dancing every Saturday was everybody's, wish for in those years. And for kids like us, we just ran around all over the place. But I tell you, you talked about Mao and girls. I saw it with my own eyes. Those girls, when, people would, before Mao came, Mao would come around 9 o'clock in the evening or something, or even later, 10 o'clock. And people would, with a band already, people started dancing. A few marshals arrived. Zhu De was, one of the builders of the Chinese Red Army. He loved, so he came and he would start dancing. Now, it was very funny to watch him dance, because like Zhu De, he was short, stout, and when he danced, he just grabbed the girl like grabbing the guns, and he would just go forward, charge forward, and he hit to the wall, which was a very big hall anyway, so there was a long way to go, and it was very funny to see them. Anyway, the most gracious one was Liu Shaoqi, the president, and danced beautifully. But I tell you, people were dancing, but then suddenly the music stopped, quiet. And that was when Mao arrived. And the girls would run into the front. I tell you, Mao walked down slowly like this, every time without failure. you saw girls fainted. Just saw Mao, they fainted. So you're talking about Mao. It was, for them, it was unbelievable that they saw God. I saw it. So I don't know. Anyway, then when the music started, the funny thing was Mao, he loved to smoke first. So around his table there would be the Herlong Shushu, the Marshal Herlong, and the Zhu would sit around and they would smoke cigar. At the time, Marshal Herlong, I could tell you, Flip, Marshal Herlong had Cuban cigars because Castro gave it to him. So he loved that, and he shared it with Mao, and Mao said, yeah, cigar, no good. It's my roll-up cigarette better. So anyway, the girls would be, dying. You could see from their eye they were dying to be called, to be called by their boss to go and sit on that table. Many of them, and you can ask that girl to do anything, I'm telling you. He was so willing, and it was so, for them it was the chance of their lifetime. So when Mao started to dance, it was, Mao would say, louder, louder. He loved loud music. And so the band would suddenly very loud, and we would just run around, and people would always kept us apart because we would chase here and there, children, how they were, and we were kept apart, and then you can see how Mao dancing. Oh, he wasn't dancing. He just grabbed the girl and he just walked, and the girl just tried to get the rhythm right. But anyway, it was funny to see how he dragged the girl like this. The girl couldn't catch up with him, so he just simply dragged the girl. So anyway, that was every Saturday when the relationship of the leadership was still good. We had that all the time, every Saturday, until in the early, say 64 upwards, we didn't have Mao in the dance floor. In fact, now when I learn more about Chinese, what happened inside Zhongnanhai, we realize the conflict already started. The rift, the crack already started probably then or even earlier. But anyway, and that was part of it. The other part that I loved very much about Zhongnanhai was the swimming. The swimming part was very good because I went, in the summer it was so hot in Beijing. We had no air conditioning, nothing. So our bodyguard took us to the Taoranting. There was one big swimming pool for children. I'm telling you, there were thousands of kids. I could hardly put my foot inside the pool. To get into the pool, to put a foot in, was impossible. So I went back very upset, didn't do any swimming. And at first I thought I would learn to swim. No way. And then, so our housekeeper had a good idea to go and see film, to go to cinema. In 1956, 7, 8, China had only one. I don't know any of these here could remember. In Beijing, we had only one cinema, small. So we went. I was shocked because then Thailand was just opened the Chairman Thai here, the new, fancy cinema of the time. Then I went to Beijing. It was filthy, dirty, spitting along the film. So I came back. We all complained to Zhou Enlai. Look, listen, I couldn't swim, I got this and that. So since then, it just made me the possibility to go into Zhongnanhai and swim there, actually. That was a huge pool, bigger than this room, outdoor. And the first time I went, I was very excited. Zhou Enlai had an adopted daughter, maybe you know, Sister Sun Wei-shi was my kind of big sister. She was Zhou Enlai's Chinese adopted daughter. And so she was my kind of, Zhou Enlai asked her to be my guide because, Zhongnanhai was about 250,000 square something. It was so huge, and several zones to go through, and you couldn't go through zone A of Mao to go to zone B of, Zhou Enlai was at the last. I think at the zone D or zone something. I never had that card, but I could go in because Sister Sun took me along. So he was a kind of so we went into that. So she took me to the swimming pool, and I was, a child, really. There were many children of her long children. There was no Xi Jinping there. I'm sorry. I have never seen him in Zhongnanhai. Anyway, so there were children of Marshal Herlong, Marshal, grandchildren of Marshal Zhu, whom we still saw each other and so on, or one another. And then the kids were there screaming, and Marshal Herlong was the best guy to play with us because he was very funny. He threw me up and threw me down the pool. Anyway, then one day, I saw a big bulk on the far right, like that. If I were here in front of far right of it, saw a big bulk, and I thought it was a balloon in the pool. And before I could ask of something, somebody pulled that balloon up. Oh, it was a man, like a huge guy. It was a man, and when he turned around, it was Mao Zedong, and. The guards came, and the chief security, Lo Riching, was there like his son, wiping his, and then he was doing this, and Lo Riching put the cigarette there. He just put, and then somebody had the rattan chair, so he was sitting by the pool and just kind of looking at us. I just found out later why I didn't know he was a person. He had a big technique in swimming. He could lie without moving anything, on the water like that, flat. And he could move from left to right. It was fantastic. And I don't know how he floated. Anyway, that was Mao, and was my first encounter with him in person like this. Because afterwards he would call, he would beckon, and the children would all just wait. They all wait. They knew it, so they waited for that beckoning. So we would run over around him. And what we loved about Mao was, in his pocket, he always had bonbon. It was the worst, what do you call it, bonbon, sweet ever. Because at the time, China had no sugar, and imports were difficult. So they used probably some sugar cane or whatever and made into nice rabbit, called white rabbit bonbon. It's still there, the mark is still there, but tastes much, much better. But anyway, we had it. A lot of children loved it. And I hated it, but I kept it because I had it, Just that kind of, I had a bonbon from Mao. And everybody, now we still meet twice a year. Mao's family, Zhou's family, Marshal Zhu family, we still meet every year with their children, grandchildren, and every time we talked about the same thing. We talked about the dance, we talked about the sugar, the sweet, and so on. Anyway, so we love a few of these, love this Mao's little bonbon. But actually what I love most was the sweet, the sugar from Madame Sun Yat-sen. Madame Sun Yat-sen, Zhou Enlai always make sure that she had the special supply from Hong Kong. Especially China have a pot of money to buy what she would eat, gooseberry, jam, that kind of thing. So for her, and she would always have me by her side and give me a little bit of taste of this, and I love that. But I still prefer to have Mao's bonbon. So the life in Zhongnanhai made us so close. Even today, we're very close with those. So we knew who was who in Zhongnanhai. History of today cannot change the history in my memory. That is it. Then we had, so after this, another memory I had of China at that time, in a good old time, was the holiday in Peitaihe, because in the summer it was so hot, so they decided that every summer, July, August, we would go to Peitaihe. Now, every family would be prepared, and then we would go on a special train, not Mao's train, but special train for us, a few families, and we will have a special rail for us to go from Beijing directly to Peitaihe. And there, we stayed in Ducha. Ducha is built by the Russians and by the Soviet Union for the leaders. And each of us would have the whole front of seas, but kind of that's my property, that's their property, that kind of thing. And Chairman Mao was also along that side. But children, while the grown-ups would have limits how to go to see Mao or not to see Mao or how to disturb this and that, children had no limits. So a few, like He Long's son was always the head of all the naughty things. We loved him. We really loved him. So he would call upon us and knock, knock, and we all go to So one day, and Mao loved swimming. And they all very worried because every time there was that big wave, the security had to be double, and they had to swim with Mao, and he swam very fast at the time, and they didn't like it. So one day there was a huge storm, was forecast tonight, and the storm, the wave was so huge, and nobody there. General Lorichin would not dare telling Mao not to go. He was sitting there, threatening everybody that he would, any minute, would jump into the water. And they were all ready to jump, but they wanted to tell him it was dangerous, but they couldn't. But then suddenly we saw somebody drag down a huge shark with big teeth, bleeding, And they drew up not far from Mao. It's about another, from here to that table, just sitting there. Oh, we children were very excited. We ran over to see the shark, just being killed and the blood still bleeding. And the guard tried to tell us to go away and so on. Well, that day he didn't go swimming. People thought that worked. That was a very dangerous day to have Mao to swim. Yeah, so that was my little experience, which I would never forget in my life. While the kind of close relationship, the bond that I built then until today, and then the good times more or less over, because in 1966, first of all, my father ended up 1966. After 8 years in jail, he came out. He defended himself in the military court, the first one of all the 2,000 people. He was the one who wanted to come out. Therefore, he went to the military court, surrounded by so many people, because they knew these people were there, and famous people, and Sang was coming out. He was the government spokesman during the war, so he was really a very famous guy. So they all went to that trial, and he won the trial, and he came out. And after that, his written, kind of a court case and his argument, etc., became, he made a book to give to the rest, and they all came out one by one afterwards. So the whole lot came out so Lat Yao prison became available. So then, that was in 1966, and then the first thing he wanted to do, nearly finished, okay? Time-wise? Okay. So, the first thing he wanted to do is to come and see his children. Listen, 10 years we had not seen one another. And in the meantime, 8 years he spent in jail. And then, the Thai government was not going to give him passport to travel abroad. Why? Because they were worried that when father went abroad, whatever pretext he had, he would get in touch with Dr. Pridi in China. And they were afraid that they would form up an exile government outside Thailand supported by China. So this Thanom Prapat regime would not give him the passport. So then one day he had a visit from an American friend who used to work in the embassy, Norman Hanna. He was the counselor advisor to the embassy at the time. They were old friends. They met him when he was in his high stage. The father was controlling of Thai policy, etc. So people all came to see him. So Norman came to the house and see him, and said, now we know your children finally went to China and under Zhou Enlai. By then they all knew, but before that they didn't know. And you know, they had, the American at the beginning couldn't know what was happening between my father and China, Phibunsongkhram and China, this secret way of contact. And 20 years after the secret document could be released from Pentagon, there was those, communication between Thai embassy, Thai American ambassador and political conseiller with the White House, the kind of communication they had, and it was so funny because they didn't know who was doing what, and they were guessing maybe it was General Marshal Powell, maybe it was the General Pin or whatever, but it was never people. Maybe finally they found out. But anyway, so in the end, we had the father wanted to come, and Norman said to father, look, I know that your children were under Zhou Enlai's care in the last, they were like his children. We had an important message, if you could carry it to him. Before that, he had asked Allende of Chile, the Chilean president, who went to China to deliver, also failed. And now he came to father and he said, yeah, President Johnson would like to have you to deliver 2 messages to Zhou Enlai, if possible. So number one is that American would like to stop the Vietnam War. If we could find a way, we would like to talk to China. Number 2 is that we would like to talk about Taiwan and its arrangement. It's still not good. So the two, they had this message. So my father used the opportunity and said, yeah, I could easily deliver, but I had no passport, and nobody gave me passport to travel. Somehow things were arranged that soon enough my father had a passport, and he could travel to China. And I must say, Zhou Enlai, people knew that China's war was won not only by army, won mainly also by intelligence, which was the chief of the intelligence, Zhou Enlai. So somehow they had kept relationship with Thailand through whatever. So when they knew that father was coming, they arranged father to go to Hong Kong and then to Macau. Hong Kong to China then was very dangerous because Hong Kong was a place there were many bombs, always plane bombs and so on. So they took father to Macau, and then through Gongpei border, we met father there. I think it was a very touching scene that touched everybody around. I was 8. When he saw me, I was a real young girl. Even the guards were very touched by us together. Father went through all the suffering and so on. So we took the Chinese, arranged everything, first rate, and we got to Beijing in the end. And so father got the message, the same message that Kissinger delivered 4 years later. But he had more luck than my father. My father arrived in 1967 February. Remember this date. Any of our Chinese friends would know. February 1967 was the period that Zhou Enlai foreign ministry was taken over by the rebels. Zhou Enlai was circled and was surrounded and held out by the Red Guards of so many factions, don't know from where, in the Great Hall of the People. We were put in Peking Hotel, actually just opposite where Zhou Enlai was being held. And so we had a few days together, father and son and children, very happy. Then my father said, the real reason that he came here was, apart from seeing you, now I have seen you, I have another mission from President Johnson, and I had to see Zhou Enlai. So he asked to meet Zhou Enlai. And of course, Zhou Enlai couldn't come out. So I asked him, what are you going to tell them? So he told us those 2 points. One is Vietnam and one is Taiwan. You got to know how China 1967 was. Everywhere was rebels. The rivalry, they call it rebels is justice. So they can catch anybody, put them anywhere, those are justice. So anyway, we said to Father, no, Father, you can say anything, but not these two. You stop out the word American, and especially Johnson was a bastard in China. You look at so we look out of the Peking Hotel, we were just in front. So the 8th floor was reserved for us. So we looked out, down with American something, and having the American with the hats and being stabbed by the people and so on. I said, you're not going to say. No, not my father. He was a very stubborn in what he believed, and he said, no, this is the world peace. This is something concerning world peace. I got to deliver. I said, you can't. Now, in the end, we had a big fight and we lost. So brother and I, we said, look, let him. He stayed too long in prison. He lost touch with we thought he was a little bit out of his mind. So in the end, he asked to meet Zhou Enlai, and they said, oh, Zhou Enlai was very busy, stays here, he loved to see you, and so on. And he said he had a message to deliver to any of the Chinese top ministry and foreign ministry. So they sent the person, Mao's representative, who signed the memorandum of understanding with my father in 1955, December 55. He sent him over with many Red Guards coming with him into our hotel suite. And Y and I, my brother, we looked at each other. We knew what was to come. It was the worst kind of thing we thought it would happen. And but my father, he didn't feel anything, so he just started to talk, the world peace, and he had his friend from Norman Hanna and so on, and he just, thank you, he just, tell them the 2 points the American would like to do. The guy who came, whom I called him uncle all these years, and he was our messenger, because there was no posted nothing, and the secret document between that we have kept today, that father received and Zhou Enlai received, was hand carried from Zhou Enlai's office to Burma embassy, and the ambassador, this one, who my father would send somebody to the Chinese embassy in Burma and took the letter and brought it to my father. This is how we had this Zhou Enlai's true letter. And during the martial, when my father was in jail, the house was, searched for communist activities, for the evidence. My mother put all these, and a few of the pictures you saw today, in a pot and buried under the ground. That's how we had our document survive today. But the Chinese one, because it was taken over by the rebels, they burned many of the documents. China had no documents. And it had been approached to me that whether we could share what we had. And of course I said I would share the copy. And so that was how it was like. And this kind of father mission had been kept secret. Anyway, when he was there, the Chinese, I saw that our chief negotiator or whatever, our host, was quiet. His face changed. He looked at his red card, and in the end he said, well, we have something else to do. We have to leave. It wasn't him. He was a very warm. He was so nice. Since I was a child, he used to come to Beijing and visit us and so on. He changed to another person. And everybody changed in those times, overnight. So anyway, they left. We were waiting for a few days. Then they said they would come. And anyway, it was the same person, representative of Mao at the time, who declared to father that they were so disappointed. You were our old friend, Mr. Sang. We respected you, we raised your children, and we didn't know that you were such a betrayer of China. You sold yourself to the American, you were American lackeys, and you were bought by them to come to China, sneaking in and using your relation with the children. All this been done. So the final, they said they would like my father to leave within 72 hours. It was an ultimatum. So my father said he would leave now. So we all went without thinking. We knew that all the bad and worst thing was going to happen. So during the trip, we went to Guangzhou, and then we went to see Dr. Preedy. Dr. Preedy said to all of us, we are leaving also. I just saw President Pompidou. Pompidou had a short visit to China during the Cultural Revolution or just before. And he had met Dr. Preedy, and he asked a kind of a refugee to France. And they decided to leave within a month or two after this 1967, early 1967. So we came back, and we didn't know what to expect, really. We still had the same idea of our home. We had the same idea. You know how you had lived for 10 years, the kind of life and the kind of, in a sense, luxury. And we didn't really know how normal Chinese people lived or anything. That was the part. And anyway, so when we got to the airport, we just saw our driver, Lao Lai, who had been with me since I was 8, who had been our guardian, also household guy. You know, we have many staff in the house, 4 or 5 courtyards. What do you think? We had many people. But this one, he was in Thailand before, and he went back when Zhou Enlai asked all the Chinese, all the communists who worked abroad going back to China so that our neighboring country would not suspect that you are doing communist activities in the country. So Lao Lai was one of them. And actually all my staff nearly were all the returnees from Thailand who were in the anti-Japanese war, had done a lot for their own country. And so we were there, and and Lao Lai used to be our sandbox, my brother. He loved Thai boxing. So Zhou Enlai got a boxing club, and then we had no sandbox. So Lao Lai used to be his sandbox. This was the guy who had a lot of attachment to us. So he came, and we saw that he was very reluctant. He couldn't look us in the eye. And why was, I was about 16, I didn't notice much, but why notice all this? And he said to me when we got home, things going to change then, you got to prepare. So that night, he took out a lot of our, by then, many of our so-called uncles, Marshall Herlong, Marshall Peng De Huai, who was my closest. Really, we went to Xiangshan together every Sunday in the good old time with Zhu De. Pictures with Zhu De, with Mao, swimming. People took and gave us. We burned them all. We burned all the communication. My father wrote to us, we burned, because they became already the number 1, number 2 of enemies of China. So if we kept my brother, he thought things were going to go only bad. So we burned that. And then the next day, we were taken in 2 cars. And that, but that night my brother started telling me, Dan, you have to prepare. Yeah, you know, I had, like many of those Chinese so-called princeling and princesses, we never had anything difficult in our life. We you know, even in the hard time, we had a special supply from a special supply center, so we didn't quite share all the misery of the Chinese people, even during the famine and so on. So now I just couldn't think what worse could happen to us. But my brother, he foresaw that. So he said, Dan, the house address in Thailand, I would put in a drawer, passport, I would put this and that. It didn't get into my ears because I thought he was crazy. He probably heard a lot of all this, you know, read too much of the pamphlets on the wall or something. Didn't get in. But then the next day, we were put in 2 cars. And then some reality, you know, suddenly dawned on me, maybe something, you know, would happen. So we were dragged into a struggle meeting with the Red Guards from Foreign Ministry, with some Thai communists who left there, and a representative of Thai Communist Party. Well, I never knew they had quite a few of them. And then we had the son of General Surayut, Kun Phayom. He was the chairman, the president of the Thai patriotic movement in China. He was the president. And I remember sometime I was invited by him because he kept saying that my father saved his life when the police was going to arrest him. At the time, my father talked to General Mao and let him walk to China. So he always said Kun Sang was his lifesaver. So he met us a few times. And his bureau, his office of this Thai Patriotic Front was next door to Arafat. Arafat had his also something. So we used to see Arafat nearly every time I went there. Anyway, that was quite a time, just before Cultural Revolution, during. So he became the head of all the struggle meeting against us and against my father. I just realized how human being could be, you know, along this Cultural Revolution time. So we were there and we were surrounded by all these people. I was frightened. I had never foreseen all this. And so starting off with him, Mr. Phayom, he was a Liet Nong. He was even in the army before. But he was communist. He turned communist. And then he was the one who opened the attack on my father. He was a betrayal of his country during the Japanese World War. He sold Thailand to Japan, and so every argument he said, my brother would you know, fight against him. You know, Thailand was the country that got out of the war, the best our people suffered, etc. I'm not going into detail. But anyway, the thing was and then another one they also said my father was a betrayal of the people, betrayal of the Chinese people, and good intention, and so on and so forth. Then my brother said, this is the guy who went to jail for 8 years for China, for trying to establish the relationship between China and Thailand, and you call him betrayer? What have you done to the relationship at all? And all this stuff. Soon they just brought a big army in and announced read a sentence. He was declared of a helpless, you know, element of the you know, to change himself, and he's anti Mao Zedong. He was American lackeys. He was the spy of his family, and therefore a spy of American, planted in China, all sorts of things. Then the people, the army, the soldiers came in with a few Red Guards, dragged him out, and they read the sentence. therefore you are against Mao Zedong, so you will receive capital punishment. It happened all over in that meeting. I just saw him this morning. So he was taken away, just like that. And I was shaken like a little, dropping the dog in the water, little puppies. Then they took me back home. And then somebody said, we know that you burned a lot of secret documents. These were the evidence. They even collected the ashes. You burn all this, you try to and so on. So I said, well, I didn't know. My brother did it. I said that because he already gone. I didn't know whom to say. So anyway, then he said, now in front of you, you know what happened to your brother? Now in front of you, you have to choose. Are you going to choose the people, or are you going to choose the American lackeys? I choose the people. Whom could I? I don't know where to choose the American lackeys. I choose the people. So okay, if you choose the people, you have to cleanse your soul, to clean them up, because I was born with silver spoon, golden spoon, and this is the crime for the people. You've been exploiting people, even including in China. You've been living luxurious life, and so on. So I was taken to my home for the last time. I didn't know. So at least I knew from my heart that Lao Lai, my driver, was not the one who sold us out. But when I got into the house, I saw that hatred, eyes from the cook, from the guy who wiped our tables and lit our bed and so on. So, I realized people could change overnight. I never realized that. So I stayed calm, and since that moment on, I never spoke a word. I lost my words. And that night they came to talk to me. So I said, I didn't speak, I didn't answer anything. So the next day they took me didn't even tell me that I would not return home. Yeah, if I have a few small things, like the artist made the walnut, just a walnut, and they make some design and so on for me, and a lot of pictures I still had with Zhou Enlai. I had then Mao Zedong, I was sitting on his lap, and also pictures painted by Leo's mother, He Xiangning, dedicated to me, and many all those things. I couldn't touch anything. I just left. I thought I was going to another struggle meeting. Yes, I went in, and they were condemning. I didn't know what they were saying. My ears closed off. Didn't speak. I looked at my shoes, and I looked at the other shoes, and I think that was a very good thing to do, to be able to look at other people's shoes. So then immediately they said, I need the time to clean my own soul. So they took me away, and I thought I was going home. So it no longer Lao Lai was there. Somebody took me, and then they took me to Peking Hotel. So I thought, well, at least Peking Hotel. I'm not going home. I'm not talking. I'm not asking. I had nothing. I didn't speak. So they took me, then we got into the hotel, and it didn't go in the lift up, but it was downstairs, down, and it got darker and darker. That was what I remember. And in the end, they put me in a small room, very dark, and I worked it out from the sound of the boiling, that I was in the boiler's room somewhere, somehow. And I don't know for how long. And now when I look back, probably I was there for 3 months, because my father came February, struck a meeting, everything finished by February. And when I came out, it was in May, so it must be about 3 months. But how did I come out? I slowly, when I was alone, and they shuffled the food into the door and so on. And I just thought I must live. That was the only thing I had. Because if I don't live, I will not be able to justify what happened to me. You know, people could make up story of how we were and so on. So at the time, I just wanted to live. And then one day, well, I had survived somehow with whatever. And then somebody came in, the Red Guard, showed me a piece of paper. You know, I went to China at the age of 8. By the time I was 10, I didn't want to speak a word of Thai because all my friends, they were Chinese, they speak Chinese, and why should I speak Thai? It was, strange. And that was when Zhou Enlai came and said, I have a teacher for you. That was a Thai teacher. To teach me Thai, he said, you should not forget your roots, you are not Chinese. This is one of his wise things that he did to me, that today I could read and write Thai. That's one gratitude I have. The second thing was, when I was about 13, all around me, my Zhongnanhai friends, they all have 3, red scarf, the 3 ranking or 2 ranking, the boss of small children, I saw that when I grew up from 8 years old. So when I was 13, these people became another communist, the youth league. So I told them that I want to join the youth league. They said, oh, no, you can't. You have to go get permission from Zhou Enlai. So I went one of those Saturdays, and I said, I want to join the youth league and be with my friend. They have a lot of activities, very interesting activities. And, so Zhou Enlai said, no, we have about 10 million of those communist youth already. We don't need you. So we have only one Thai like you, so stay as you are. So that was how I left altogether communism. But I must claim one thing. I did join the building of the Great Hall of the People. There was at least a few bricks from us because our school was just next door. So all the people, the enthusiasm of China, then they were poor and nothing, but the slogan, the arouse, these people were incredible. The communists were so good in arousing this. So even small primary school kids like us, we wanted to be part, we wanted to have our blood, our dedication to to the Great Hall of the People and so on. So they organized us and to carry the bricks from one place to the other. So I said I couldn't know which one, but there were some bricks, at least 5 of them came from me. That was part of it. Anyway, so where are we now? We nearly finished.
Yeah, and also I wonder, because I'm a bit worried, if we hear the fire alarm, don't panic. It'll only last a little bit.
I'm coming.
No, it's all right. So we're running a bit longer, but I think everyone's very interested. You might want to fast forward and just tell us a little bit about your. Clearly, you've got enough material for 3 lunch talks at least.
Just 5 minutes.
But how about your escape or exit?
Yeah, I'm telling you that, okay?
Yeah.
So after that I went to, Zhou Enlai sent me to the countryside. Deep down in the countryside at night. I don't know where I was. Yeah?
Photos?
Not yet. That was a bit too far. It will come in 5 minutes. So I was sent to the countryside. When the next time I heard was the army, morning army, what do you call it, waking people up. So we got up, and I realized I was in an army garrison of the big army, 834 something.
Carry on. That's right, carry on.
So I was in the army, and then I was deep down in the country, and I tell you, I didn't know what happened to so one day we had to wash our clothes. I never washed my clothes by then. And therefore, I dropped my clothes in the water, and then I picked it up and I hung it. Then came a garrison chief who saw it, So he just came over without a word. He helped me wash a little bit and then rinse it, and then he hung it. So I knew. He didn't say anything. This guy became my lifesaver because in the countryside. The army moved away, but I stayed in the countryside for 2 years, and I had no memory of that, so that cut short. No memory of that part. Only that I woke up and I was in Beijing hospital. I was nearly dead, so I was told by the doctor. I undernourishment. I was completely nearly dead, and it was him who brought me to the hospital in Beijing. Then he sent me to the factory, textile factory, because I had to change they changed my name. Everybody was looking for me, and do you know how I got out of that thing? They took me got out of the boiler room. They took me to the Peking radio to read out the condemnation of my father, of my family, and so on. So I became a pawn to everybody. They wanted the American to know that Sang was no contact to China anymore. Don't you do it again. Number two, they wanted to know what Zhou Enlai had done. Wanted some information from me, some information of a few Chinese leaders that I was part of it. So I became, somebody had to either kill me or protect me. And I was protected by being sent to the army and then stay on in the countryside. And then they sent me, after they knew that I couldn't survive in the countryside, they sent me to the factory. I became a textile worker. Until one day I received a letter. I quickly ran to the toilet because nowhere I could be by myself. Went to the toilet, and in a rush, I don't know who sent me the first letter I had, so I tore it without thinking. At the time, all the stamps had Mao's head, had Mao portrait, and I just cut open his head, just cut off. Somebody managed to pick it up and send it to the party secretary of the factory. So they decided, the party secretary, a woman, very huge and very severe, tell me, you are against Chairman Mao, you wanted to kill him, in the depth of your soul you wanted to kill him. We're going to have a big struggle meeting against you the next day of the whole factory. Oh, I was crying the whole night. I had a night shift then, and I knew tomorrow I either be dead or I don't know what. I knew what struggle meeting meant, and that kind of struggle meeting. So then I was not looking forward, I was really scared. So when I came out 6 o'clock in the morning from our shift, I suddenly saw a big fire in front of me in the factory, and the kids were crying. So I quickly ran over, and I don't know what I did, but in the end I found myself waking up in the hospital. The first thing I saw was a big red flowers, paper flowers, holding in the hand of that woman who was going to have struggle meeting against me yesterday, the party secretary. Ooh, at that moment, I really thought I may be just starting to understand China and understand a few people of that kind. But anyway, then they all wanted to know what was in my mind at the time when I ran over. It was Chairman Mao's wit teaching. I said I couldn't remember Chairman Mao's teaching. Really, I never could recite one. So I didn't think of Chairman Mao. I thought of the children's crying. And that was, if I weren't the hero, and they made me into a great hero with the big flowers and so that was it. Then the Zhou Enlai's office heard of me, and Zhou Enlai came back to power. So he just received Edward Heath in 1969. Before he became prime minister, he was the opposition leader. So Zhou Enlai asked in person that he could no longer protect me, and he had promised his father, and so on and so forth, whether you could have her, because she was stateless. I had no passport, I had no nation, I had nothing. And therefore, so Edward Heath said if Zhou Enlai would just write a letter, identify my identity, then they would accept me immediately. So I could go and be with my boyfriend at the time, which I was not in love with this boyfriend. And so before leaving, I had a second thought. I didn't want to leave, so I said to Zhou Enlai, we met shortly, 5 minutes, and I said, I didn't want to leave. I didn't love this man. Zhou Enlai said, this is not the time of love. It's a time of you survive or you know, I cannot protect you. So go. So he sent the same guy, garrison chief, sent me to Guangzhou, and we took the plane. He gave me 4,000 pounds in cash and a ticket, and then through Albania, I arrived in London. And within a week, I married the guy, which I would never do it again if I had. Anyway, then that was the end of that. Then the next year, my father, my family found me. They thought I was dead. 5 years after our separation from that day, 65, 71, through many things around the world, through British 16, 4M, 4M, 6M, whatever, they couldn't find me because I changed my name from Phathanothai to Horn. And there are so many, you know, then in the end it was my brother, eldest brother, who was, in a sense, supported, brought up by the Pentagon at the time. And he was working for the Pentagon, teaching Thai to the Peace Corps. So one of those CIA found me in London. And it was actually a story, but no need to go into it, another drama. So anyway, in the end they found me. So when my father called me from the phone and mother, I just thought we are, the greatest family we are. So we immediately, my father came, flew over, my mother flew over, and when I was in London, I told everybody I was an orphan because I didn't know how to start my story. Everybody was interested. This is a Thai girl, but coming from China. People at the time wanted the story, how it happened, and I couldn't tell the story. So I said I was an orphan. Until then, we come to the last part, my father came and said, you have to rebuild. Now is the time. Nixon just went to China. And you are the only hope for Thailand. You are the only threat Thailand had, because we had Marshal Thanom and Prapat had been against China for 20 years, and now wanted to show that they wanted to be friends with China. They didn't know what to do. So in the end, they had to come back to me. So delegation came this was after Nixon's visit, so father knew that it was, at first I thought after I got to England, that was it, China and me finished. Never again I would go back to China. But China, it seemed, kept calling me. So in the end, I was really the only one who could get to the top of the Chinese government, and then to have a hostile country like Thailand, to have our first ping pong delegation invited for the ping pong tournament in China. On that delegation, the main thing was we have number 3 guy from Thailand to be the advisor to that ping pong. And I got a special invitation from Zhou Enlai within 2 days for him. So my brother Wan Wai, whom I thought he was dead, we met and reunited in Heathrow Airport. So then Zhou Enlai set up a special kind of a group for this meeting. This is when father came to meet Ambassador Song, the first ambassador to Chinese ambassador to China, to England. And then it was Zhou Enlai asked me to help organize, working with the Chinese team in Beijing. So I flew over. So there was my brother, me. My brother would accompany ping pong team, especially Kun Prasit, to this special. So that was when Zhou Enlai met us in 2 o'clock in the morning for this occasion, and see how he was so happy to see us there. And Mr. Prasit, he was so powerful in Thailand, but in front of Zhou Enlai, he was shaking. He didn't know what to talk and not to talk. So I was there kind of easing a little bit. And Zhou Enlai said, look at his hand. I was the official interpreter Zhou Enlai asked specially for both sides. And he said, look, I brought up these two children. We should be friends. And why we not? So Kun Prasit said, we cannot be your friend because you trained the army against us and so on. So it was very tense until Zhou Enlai said, look, why don't we do it like this? We will stop supporting communist Thailand. We will stop training your people, and you recognize our Taiwan. Mr. Prasit, he was something he didn't expect, and and ever since then, it took 3 years to negotiate, with official negotiation, but all based on that night that we talked to Zhou Enlai. This was in 1975. They signed the protocol. Zhou Enlai and all these people behind on the Chinese side were the people who we were meeting, and I had been meeting and negotiating 3 years earlier. And this was the last protocol, 101, the last protocol Zhou Enlai signed before his death. He died on the 1976, January. Now, he was the one who signed this one. And this was the thing he said to us before we left him in February when we met him at night. It took us and your father 20 years to nurture you, and in fact we finally had succeeded in bringing Thailand and China together. So this was, and then the funny thing was, Kissinger and me, we met 2008. We met earlier during the secret ping pong maneuver, which I didn't have time to talk to you. Kissinger said we were the only two living people in the world who had witnessed how Zhou Enlai used the small ping pong ball to turn over the big universe. And we both succeeded in bringing diplomatic relations with China. That was what Kissinger said when he saw me on that occasion in 2008. And these were the activities after the establishment, and our family was very much involved. My son, and this is Madame Zhou, and that's my son. He later on became citizen of the world. This with Prince Charles, with the Queen. He got MBE or whatever. I don't quite know. And this is my fourth generation, my two grandchildren. And they were very much, they speak Chinese fluently, and read and write, and still going to China and mixing with the grandchildren of the old leaders.
And you have a beautiful house in Beijing too. You have a beautiful courtyard house in Beijing.
Thank you. So I think that's more or less, no, you will drive me out now. You kick me off the table. Thank you very much.
I think that's an amazing
Thank you very much
history, So, one thing to know, if you're interested in more details of the story, Sirin wrote a book, Dragon Pearl, which is quite some years ago, but the story stands. I think it's out of print, unfortunately, you were telling me.
With you we make
it does surface on secondhand. It's, Amazon secondhand. We are trying to persuade her to do a revised version. Particularly in the context of where China's going today. I think some of these insights are fascinating. And I'm sorry we don't have time to delve into that. I would have liked to hear your views about the situation now and how, some of the roots of the past reflect. And, even Xi Jinping himself was sort of sitting in a cave in the Cultural Revolution sometime around then. So I'm sure, there's a lot to say.
Yes.
Maybe we can have another lunch talk next year.
I'm sorry, it took too long.
And the other thing is there is a 41-part TV series. I think you showed some.
No, just some. Being watched by 500 million Chinese people, because it's not me, because I think Zhou Enlai's life and work.
So there are TV series. There's an earlier TV series as well, a dramatization. So Anyway, plenty
And
of
there is one TV team there. They are coming
TV
from
team
China.
here. Yes, thank you. Welcome. So anyway, there's lots more material if you're interested in this fascinating story. I think there's still a lot of mileage in it. So maybe next year, Sirin, particularly if you're updating your...
We will do something.
Yes. So thank you all very much for coming, and please look at our website. If you want to have a word with Sirin, I'm sure she'll be around for a little while longer. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. ขอบคุณมากค่ะ
Beijing about 15 years ago because my son